You are about to discover the poverty programming that has held you down and many other Cameroonians broke, sick, uninformed, and fearful. You have been programmed as a Cameroonian and conditioned to be broke. And in this video, you're going to discover how to identify the programming, reprogram your mind, and be able to make 500 million francs in 1 year. That is the objective of this video. The question you're probably asking is, who conditioned me to be broke? The home you were raised in. The neighbors, the friends that you were brought up with, the media, the government, the churches you went to, native doctors, magicians. All of these individuals and institutions have conditioned you to be broke. And there is an operating system that is in your subconscious mind running automatically, because 90% of the results that your life is producing is automatic. You don't even think about it when you're manifesting in this dimension. Let me break it down. All the belief systems that you hold today as truth, you were not born with them. You were not born thinking the way you do right now. Someone taught you. You were not born with the responses that you give towards life circumstances the way you do right now. Someone taught you. Take, for instance, when you were born, you did not know how to walk. Someone taught you how to walk. You stood up, fell, they trained you, and then you knew how to walk. Now walking became automatic. You don't even think about it right now when you wake up to walk. It's so natural and so normal for you right now because someone taught you. You remember the first time you were learning how to drive? You get into the steering and you were so stiff. You hold the steering and you're so focused because why? You didn't know how to drive. But immediately you figured out how to drive. Driving now is automatic to you. You get in and you just drive. You don't even think about it. So there is no mental work that you put to drive. Driving is automatic. So you were programmed through the training on how to drive. So it is with poverty as well as riches. You have been programmed to be poor, while others have been programmed to be rich. The same operating system that runs in your mind runs in the minds of most Cameroonians. The operating system that runs in the minds of Cameroonians is different from the operating system that runs in the minds of Americans. You remember when we had the Pentium 3, Pentium 4 computer? When it will get corrupt and we'll go get an operating system and format it, because if you try installing new programs on that old operating system, there's going to be an error message. You remember that time? And what we will do is we go get that operating disk, that operating system, and then we're going to format the computer. And once we format it, you can install a new program. You can install a new program. So right now, the operating system that you have running, when I present to you this new dimension and perspective on how you can generate wealth and build your country and experience a good life, the first tendency is to resist it. Do you know why you're resisting it? It's not like it's not possible. It is quite possible. But the operating system that you have been conditioned with is resisting this new software. So the only way for you to get to the place where you start producing results that are desirable to you, you have to format this current operating system, that every time you want to install a new program, there is an error message. You have to be able to get to the place where you plug into new information that reprograms your mind, format the old operating system so that new software can get involved. So I'm saying these things to help you understand, because guess what? Our mind is like a supercomputer. And that's why you see a computer is designed and we can function with these tools, because it is a representation of our being. So you have been conditioned to be broke. You have been that is why you have to get to the place where you question all of these institutions and their function in your life. What effect is this conversation with this friend having on your mind? What effect did your parents have on your mind? What effect did the church that you went to have in your mind? What effect did these native doctors and soothsayers and magicians and witchcraft individuals, those who practice witchcraft, what effect do they have on your mind? Because when you start asking those questions, that is where transformation starts. You have been conditioned to be broke. For an average Cameroonian, before you turn 21, you must have watched at least 100 Nigerian films conditioning you that the only way to make money is to get involved in a cult. You've probably watched even Nollywood or Hollywood movies that have conditioned you to think this way about money, to think this way about God, to think this way about your environment, to think this way about yourself. All of these films have conditioned you and produced the outcome that your life is generating right now. Maybe you grew up in a home where your dad told you that a poor man doesn't get angry. So all you have to do is live your life in a way that you don't rock anything because you are a poor person, and so you have been conditioned to be broke. We are going somewhere. Now let's look at 3 important institutions that you have been programmed by society to stay away from. But these institutions control your life, control the destiny of your children and the destiny of your children's children. But you have been conditioned to stay away or have mediocre information about these institutions. Religion, business, and politics. Let's start with religion. You have been told that you are a product of your ancestors. You are a product of tradition. And so you go around life trying to figure out what your ancestors did, and you let that become a compass for your life. Now, what is tradition? Tradition are practices that your ancestors developed during their era to cope in a given situation. Tradition is all systems, strategies, and ways that your ancestors used to cope, to survive during their era that has been transferred from one generation to another. Tradition. The tradition. Are you tracking? Now, when it comes to religion, the Bible tells us that we were made in the image of God. Tradition says you are a product of your ancestors. Which of this is empowering? That is a food for thought. Now, when you look at our traditional dresses, when you look at the way we dance, when you look at the way we celebrate the birth of someone, how we celebrate marriage, and how we celebrate the death of someone within our community, this is all embedded in what we call tradition. How our ancestors dealt with those situations in their era. This has evolved over time and it has become our tradition. Tradition. As people evolve in life, they find better ways of doing things. But once you have tradition, you will not adopt anything that is modern entirely. You adopt it partially, and you hold on to this tradition, and you attach some spiritual connotation to it that makes you think it's still applicable in this dispensation. Are you following what I'm saying? For instance, in those days, our parents ate on a leaf. Why? Because there were no plates. Technology has provided for us plates where we can eat on. But some people think eating on the leaf makes the food taste better than eating in a plate. That is tradition that has been transferred from one generation to another, and through technology we have found something better, but we want to hold on to those old practices because we feel like our grandfather gave it to us, our grandmother gave it to us, my father gave it to me, and so I will not adopt this new technology because of tradition. I will not believe that God created me in his image and so I have power and dominion over everything on earth. I will rather say the ancestors still have more power on earth than me living, than you living. And that is a programming that has held you broke. That is an operating system that instinctively operates in your mind, subconscious mind, that has kept you broke. You were made in the image of God. Now, business. You have been told that in order for you to get rich, you have to get engaged in a cult. Because only those who are in a cult succeed in business and not you. You've watched many movies about this. You've heard stories in your community about this. They say if you have money, you have to go protect that money. If not, they will take it away from you. You have been conditioned to think this way. Instead of you learning through modern technology how to manage your money, how to budget, how to save, how to invest, they tell you there is some spiritual force that will take the money away from you. And so you need to protect your money. You don't need to get engaged in business. This is a poverty programming. And if you don't engage in these institutions, understanding that God made you, understanding that he said be fruitful and multiply, that is business, that whatever you touch, it should expand. If you're producing a product, you should be able to sell that product and make money and take care of yourself and those around you. You have been conditioned not to get engaged in this industry. I'm letting you know this because I'm sharing this with you, because if you were taught from class 7 on how to produce wealth, today you will be financially independent. But they have made the idea of how to acquire wealth so mystical that today it has kept you broke. And when you hear money, you think of something else. You think you must do something illegal to make money. When you hear about money, you think that it is impossible for someone like you coming out of this family to make money. Why? Because of the way you have been conditioned to believe about yourself and to believe about wealth creation. Let's look at politics. They say politics is a dirty game. That is a common connotation. And they say don't engage in politics. And you hear that word, it sounds so abstract. They say if you're a pastor, don't get involved in business, don't get involved in politics. What is politics? Politics is simply getting involved in the process of choosing the leaders that will govern my life, make laws that will affect my destiny, choose judges that will decide whether I will spend life in prison or be free, to choose those in authority or police officers that will decide when they want to come lock me up and I have nothing to do with it. And they say don't engage in this. And because you're a Christian, so don't engage in politics. These are common sayings in the community. These are familiar ideas in our society that has kept us broke. Don't get engaged in religion. Don't get engaged in business. Don't get engaged in politics. If you're a businessman, don't get involved in religion. If you're a businessman, don't get involved in politics. If you're a pastor, don't get involved in business. If you're a pastor, don't get involved in politics. And all of these institutions will decide my destiny. And they say I shouldn't get involved in it. If you're a Christian, don't do this. When you were born, you had none of those tasks. Before I became a pastor, I was a businessman. Before I became a pastor, I used to go vote and participate in politics. Now that I'm aware, more educated, understand how these institutions work together, and I can articulate it better than the average Cameroonian. They say don't get involved in it. This is how they have conditioned you to remain broke. Do you understand? You might run a church, but guess what? This politician can create a law that will restrict you from having religious freedom. You might have a church, but if you don't understand business, you will fail. That is why pastors will use all sorts of gimmicks, all sorts of miracles, signs, and wonders to get you to give money, because they don't understand principles that they can unlock in people that they serve, that they can be able to create wealth, and we don't have to bother paying the bills. We don't have to bother creating wealth for our ministry, expanding the ministry, doing the work of God around the world. So pastors will use all sorts of gimmicks because they do not understand business. This is exactly how they have conditioned you to be broke. Now, I want us to get into how you can generate 500 million francs, an equivalent $1 million in the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, you can be able to make 500 million francs. Or $1 million. And if you're smart, you grab this, you can get it in a year. Are you ready? Number one, don't assign any level of difficulty to the process, the task, the dreams that you've set your mind to. And let me repeat that again. I said, do not assign any mental difficulty to your dreams, to your vision. Like the vision that we have right now to unite the entire nation of Cameroon and be able to prosper economically and move our GDP from 45 billion US dollars to 1 trillion US dollar. Anyone coming on this vision, if you assign any mental difficulty to this task, you will fail. Most of you have always thought about what will go wrong when you're starting a business than what will go right. You've always assigned mentally the challenges that will stand on your way to achieving your dreams than the success that you experience in the process of achieving your dream. Most of the successful people on earth that I have met, read about them in their books and documentaries, they do not assign any mental difficulty to the task they are about to embark on. And remember the previous video, I said the first way for you to get rich is to find out what rich people are doing. Find out what poor people are doing plus what you are doing. And stop doing the things that poor people are doing plus what you are doing, and start doing the things that rich people are doing. That is going to propel you to greatness. Does that make sense? So do not assign any mental difficulty to your dreams, to your vision, to your business, to your marriage, to your faith in God. No mental difficulty to what you have set your mind to achieve. That will propel you to greatness really fast. I do not believe that anything will stand on my way. I believe that in a very short time, Cameroon will be united and will make progress significantly. Imagine what will happen when we have 1 million Cameroonians believing this. Imagine what will happen. We are in a country of about 30 million people. Imagine what will happen if just 30% of Cameroonians believe this. Number two, decide to do it. Once you've overcome that barrier of assigning a mental difficulty to your dreams, to what you want to do with your life, the next thing, decide to do what you've set your mind to do. Yeah, it's that simple. Just decide. There's a difference between decision and choice. Choice means you have options. Decision means that I have already decided and there is no other option. This is what I want to do. I believe that we have more opportunities as Cameroonians because we speak French and English. I believe with all my heart that we are going to become the wealthiest nation in Africa in a very short time, maximum 20 years. I believe that with all my heart. I believe that there is nothing stopping us from achieving this dream. And so I don't pay attention to any obstacle that I can perceive will stand on my way. So the goal is to get people that can have this same mindset, believing that God has given you the power over everything on earth, over principalities and powers, God has given you that power and you possess that power. You are going to achieve what you set your mind to do. And that is the same with this vision of us transforming our country. When you are articulating a vision of this magnitude, individuals around you should understand this energy and be able to pour more fuel into the belief that we can achieve it and there is nothing standing on our way. You have not become who God created you to be because when you thought about that great idea, you went around looking for what will stand on your way. You went around looking for what will stop you. You went around looking for what is going to be a hindrance because you say, oh, in a business class, they told me that I should look for the threats, I should look for the impediments, I should look for what is going to stop me. Is that what Jesus did? Did he go around looking for what will stand in his way? All things are possible. That is the word. All things are possible to he who believes. So the first step towards you achieving your dream is believe. And believe is getting to the place where you do not assign any mental difficulty, any level of difficulty to the dream that you've set your mind to achieve. And then you decide to do it. And then the last step is discover the principles. And then you do the math. You do the math. I'm not talking about some complicated mathematical concepts. You just do basic math. For instance, the book that will be coming out that I wrote for our country, which is going to transform the entire nation. When you read that book, you're like, wow, I never thought this was that easy. I never thought this is how things look like in my nation. I never thought I had this power. I never thought I could believe in myself. Going through that book, this is what it's going to do for you. And so writing that book, I had the audience in mind. I did not write the book because of me. I wrote the book because of the people. So the first step towards you becoming great is thinking more of the people and less of yourself in everything that you do. Think about the people and their problems that you want to solve. So that was the first step. So look at the book that I just wrote. I discovered the principles and I did the math. Cameroon is made up of approximately 30 million people. Do the math. Our nation can really transform to a first world nation. So I did the math. I did the math. And I'm like, there are 7 industries that are transforming the global economy. If Cameroonians specialize in these 7 industries, that means they can connect with other countries around the world. If Cameroonians learn from America that has achieved the highest standard of human excellence in these industries, we can make progress really fast. China has been able to copy America and they have made significant progress. In 1990, China's GDP was approximately 390 billion US dollars. Today, China's GDP is approximately 17 trillion US dollars. They copied what worked. America is great today because the Europeans that moved over here had to cut away from some traditions and belief systems that have held them down and be able to create a new environment that was conducive for productivity. And today, as I'm talking to you, you have to get to the place where you break loose from every belief system that has held you bound. Do not entertain any conversation about it. Do not sit and have conversations with friends about mystical powers and the effect that they have over your destiny. You do not entertain such conversations. That means you will lose a lot of friends. So I did the math. And I realized that if Cameroonians focus on these 7 industries that are transforming the global economy, that includes agriculture, IT, finance, healthcare, real estate and construction, renewable energy, the media and entertainment sector. If Cameroonians will just focus on these 7 industries. And what is my reference? South Korea. South Korea realized at some point they were very broke and backward nation, and they discovered that we can't do everything, but there are some things that we are good at. And if we focus on these things, we'll make significant progress. Today, their GDP is approximately 1.6 trillion US dollars. South Korea was a very poor country in the 90s. Look at South Korea today. So if Cameroonians apply what I call specialized modeling, we can make significant progress in the next 20 years. Progress that is unheard of in the continent of Africa. Follow what works. As of now, before you criticize capitalism, it works. It has produced unprecedented wealth in this dispensation like never before. It is a miracle to look at the prosperity that capitalism has produced for the world. And we will follow this system. Why? Because capitalism is all about who produces the best, who gives the best service, who gives the best product, who's making the best shoes. And it's all about promoting growth, exponential growth, competitive growth. So capitalism works. Socialism doesn't work. It produces laziness. It produces social welfare. People don't do anything and they sit around and wish that wealth be distributed so that they can be prosperous. And that doesn't work. That system hasn't worked. No developed nation has tried it and it worked. So it doesn't work. So we will adopt what works. This can really move our country really fast at a pace that we have never ever thought of. Now, so I did the math. How do you make 500 million francs in the next 5 years? Or 500 million francs in the next 1 year? Which is very possible. Do the math. Take, for example, the book that I'm about to release titled The Cameroon Dream. That book was written to open the minds of Cameroonians to get to the place where they can create wealth in an unprecedented manner that has never been heard of in the history of our nation. Imagine that that book is sold for 10,000 francs or $20. Right? Are you tracking? That book was written in French and English. That is, if you buy one copy, there's a section in English and there's a section in French. So if you speak French or you speak English, you can have a copy. And that is the business design that went into writing that book. Are you tracking? Now, imagine that I sell that book for 10,000 francs or $20. Cameroon is approximately 30 million as of now. 30 million people in Cameroon, approximately. Okay. Imagine I sell that book just to 50,000 Cameroonians. 50,000 Cameroonians at $20 or at 10,000 francs. That book would generate me $1 million. Which is an equivalent to 500 million francs. Do you understand? That is how you do the math. That is how you do the math to prosper. What product are you going to create to serve your people? At what price point? How many units are you going to sell to reach the mark? Imagine 50,000 copies sold at 10,000 francs or $20 is going to make me $1 million or 500 million francs. This is how you create wealth. You do the math. Whatever it is that you want to create for your life, do the math. And do not assign any level of mental difficulty to your dreams, because I don't believe that this is impossible. Cameroon is made up of 30 million people, and I'm sure there are 50,000 Cameroonians that are hungry for change right now, and so they will buy this book. All I have to do is figure out a way to reach out to these 50,000 people. They are there in Cameroon. I've met a lot of them, and you're one of them. You're here watching this video because you want change, and this is it. And so this is how you do the math. Imagine that you did the math for your product. You did the math for a service that you want to offer, and you are persistent and you look for the marketing strategy, because I've bought courses on how to write and publish a book that will transform people's lives, and it was not cheap. I understand the process that goes into writing a book that changes people's lives, and so everything went into the writing of this book. Are you guys following? This is how you change your life forever, and you don't believe that anything is going to stop you. I'm going to say this and then I'll wrap up. People go around life worried how to make money. They think the best way is to trade their time for money. Have you heard the saying that time is money? If you want to make money in this world and you think time is money, you'll be broke. Rich people spend money to save time. Poor people spend time to save money. You will never ever achieve anything great in your life, spiritually, mentally, financially, or otherwise, until you get to the place where you don't give a damn about what people think about you. If you go around worrying about what people think about you, you will never be successful. You have to get to the place where you don't really give a damn what they think. If you found a model that works, and you've seen successful people doing the same thing again and again, and they are getting results, and you believe it with all your heart, follow it diligently and don't care about what anyone thinks about you. They will catch up with time, and they will turn to love you with time. They will realize with time that you were the real deal. Do you understand what I'm saying? You stay focused and be persistent. Now, this is the reality. When we are talking about the poverty programming that you have been conditioned with to keep you broke, sick, uninformed, and fearful, this is where many people find themselves in life. These are 4 levels of wealth creation. The lowest is implementation. This is where people really say we trade time for money. Implementation, where you just do the work and get paid per hour. It is the most limiting form of wealth creation. Many people focus here. The second level is unification. This is where you become like a manager of a company. You manage people. And this aligns with biblical principles because this is what God intends for us, right? So the second stage is unification. The third stage is communication. And this is where you find people like actors, public speakers, speakers of the House of Assembly, ministers, individuals who communicate concepts. They're right here. The last stage is imagination. Imagination is the highest level of wealth creation. This is where you use your mind and your money to create wealth. For example, the idea called Ambazonia was an imagination in the mind of someone, Gojin Dinka. He communicated that idea. It did not kick off. Today we have individuals that have emerged and they are communicating that philosophy that have persuaded you right down here to take action, which is implementation. They are managers, managing resources, managing time, managing other things that can help the vision to push through. But what I want to help you understand is imagination is the highest level. Somebody thought about an idea called Ambazonia. Today, people focus more on implementation than on imagination. But God gave you a mind. God thought in his mind to create everything we see, including you. And so he said, the individual that professed the idea called Ambazonia thought about it in his mind. So in order for you to be successful in life, you have to live right here. Imagination. Where you use your brain and your money to work for you, to create wealth for you. And then you might find individuals that are able to communicate that vision, individuals that can manage the systems within that vision, and individuals that can act on that vision. So this is where many people find themselves, implementation. This is the worst stage to focus on. Even if you're working on a project with me, I want you to be a thinker. I want you to be a communicator. I want you to be a manager. And when we focus on these areas, guess what? We will be able to implement easily, if not create tools and machines that can help us implement these ideas. For instance, take agriculture. At this stage of implementation, I don't think we should be cultivating crops with holes anymore. Do you understand? This is mundane, and I want to let you know this is where the curse is. When God cursed the man out of the garden, when God kicked the man out of the garden, he said, you will sweat before you eat. And so guess what? This is where many people find themselves. They want to sweat before they eat. And they respect those who sweat before they eat. And they feel like you're righteous when you sweat before you eat. They don't think that you can communicate. When you're communicating, even online on social media, people underestimate communicators. People underestimate people who think. People underestimate people who are managers. They try to prioritize and glorify those who are implementing. Are you understanding? It takes a lot of brain work to think about a concept and persuade people to believe in what you believe. Gojin Dinka thought about the idea called Ambazonia. It was a thought in his imagination. Imagination is the highest level of wealth creation. Albert Einstein, the greatest physicist that has ever existed, who came up with the equation E is equals to mc squared, said logic will take you from point A to B. But he said imagination will take you everywhere. Imagination, image nation, that you are able to see the impossible. You're able to believe that it's going to come to fruition. That level of thinking activates wealth in an unprecedented manner. The highest physicist said, logic will take you from point A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere. Imagination is the highest level of wealth creation. And many people in our community focus on implementation. We don't focus on even unification or communication, talk less imagination. We are here on implementation. We want to put in the hour and get the dollar. We have to learn how to put in imagination to get the dollar, how to communicate to get the dollar, how to manage to get the dollar. Look for machines to do the work. And that is why you see many countries around the world are investing today in AI and robots. Why? Because machines ought to be implementing and not humans. And I think this is the greatest breakthrough for us to believe that truly Christ died on the cross to give us back our power that we had in the Garden of Eden before man fell. Because when man fell, the instruction was, you are going to toil extremely hard. You will be in Egypt struggling to build the systems that oppress you. You'll be working hard to build the systems that oppress you and keep you broke. And so in order for you to escape this, you have to start learning what will help you improve your management skills, your communication skills, and your imagination skills, because that is where wealth creation is. I hope you got some value out of this video. Watch it again and again and let it open your mind to possibilities. The Cameroon dream is real. Our country will never be the same again. In the next 5 years, we'll have more Cameroonians choosing to go back home than stay abroad. We are going to have wealth in an unprecedented way because we are going to imagine what is possible. We are going to communicate those possibilities. When we are going to lead and manage and have systems working for us to get this dream become a reality. If you like this video and you want to watch another one, click right here.